In this video, I want to talk about my first year or so shooting film, why I started shooting film, what my experience was, what I learned. And this video is also kind of going to be a tribute to this camera because it just stopped working. Canon A35M film camera. This was my entry into film photography, which is now definitely a hobby that I am very passionate about. So I don't know what went wrong with it, but it just doesn't work at all. But I just became obsessed with the aesthetic of it. I love that it kind of looks like, I don't know, like a cassette tape that you're just holding. I love the subtle red tones. I love the retro feeling of it. I even love the strap. Oh, I forgot to show you guys the flash. This might be my favorite part. So it's got a built-in flash. The flash is super bright, which makes those flash photos look really cool and retro. And now I want to tell you about my journey with film photography, which has only been about a year or so. So why did I decide to try out film photography in the first place? It was fairly early on in the pandemic, I believe something like February or March 2020. So you're in the thick of lockdown. And I was going through a lot of growth in my mind, as I'm sure a lot of you were during the pandemic. This is a time where I really started diving into meditation, learning about philosophies like Buddhism. That alone time was triggering a lot of thoughts and thinking about my life and identifying things I wasn't quite happy with and learning how to change them. So one of those things that I identified with all that alone time and time to think was kind of like this realization of how addicted I was to my phone and just the fast pace of social media. So I started doing things to intentionally slow down my brain. Chess is a good example, and I made a video about getting into chess on this channel as well. I also bought a record player during this time. Just like I intentionally sought out an appreciation for these retro, slower paced things. And early in the pandemic, I was just on my phone consuming these things just nonstop. So I needed to slow down. And that's why I got into these slower paced mediums like chess, like records, and like film photography. So I bought this thing as a way to slow down. I bought this thing so that when I go on an experience with my friends, I don't even have to pull my phone out to take a photo. I can pull this thing out. There's no distractions. There's no inflow of information. I can't even see the dang picture after I take it. So it's a really non-intrusive way to capture memories during an experience, and that was one of my main draws to the medium. So the very first time I tried to load some film into this camera, I did it incorrectly because I shot what I thought was 24 photos, took it to the dark room, super giddy, super excited, and when I got my scans back, it was just this. There were no photos on the camera. I was pretty disappointed. I was excited about seeing, my first roll of film photos, but it was part of the process for me. And now that experience makes me appreciate my film photos even more. But I did my research on this camera particularly. I learned how to roll the film, and over time I shot my actual first roll of film. Now I had taken the camera with me on a hike to a couple of skate sessions around the neighborhood in New York City, just kind of having fun with it, shooting for memories and for fun's sake. And it took me a long time to shoot that first roll of film. It was a new hobby. I wasn't really into it yet. A lot of the times this thing was just sitting at home, but eventually I did complete that roll of film, probably over the course of over 4 months. So what happened was I actually had forgotten what photos I took at the beginning of the roll. So for example, these hike photos, I completely forgot that I took them. So when I finally brought this roll of film to the darkroom and I got my scans back, I was like just brought back to this memory. And I didn't even remember that I had taken the photos. So, talk about delayed gratification. It felt so good to see those photos. Not only did it bring a special memory back with my friends, the photos also looked great, and I was proud of my first film photos. That feeling of getting that first roll of film back, that delayed gratification, that feeling is why I continued to shoot film with this camera, and why I'll continue to shoot film even after this camera is dead, which it is. So since that roll, I think I've shot about 4 or 5 rolls of film. I took this thing internationally on my trip to Copenhagen. I've taken it to parties. I've taken it on a trip with my girlfriend. I take it around the neighborhood in New York City. And throughout those rolls of film, I fell in love with film photography. I think this is one of my favorite ways to capture memories. Like I said, because it's so non-intrusive, so non-distracting. This is literally a brick. You pull this thing out, you take a photo, and that's it. There's no social media whirlwind you're accidentally going to get sucked down into when you take a photo with this thing. And then it just feels incredibly special to have to wait a period of time before you even get to see those photos. And there's a risk that you're not even going to get those photos back. Something could go wrong with the darkroom, something could go wrong with the exposure. You never really know, so it just makes it all the more special when you do get to see those memories again. And I love that the photos automatically have a nostalgic feeling to them. I'm just obsessed with the film aesthetic. You know, I am a capturer. I like to capture my life. It's something I do through iPhone photography, through both of my YouTube channels. I see both of my channels as these kind of extended video journals. I like to write in my journal about what happened in my life that day or what's going on in my mind. I love to capture my life and put it into a physical, readable, viewable form that other people can interact with. And so this is a new way that I get to do that I get to capture my life, and there's something that feels so special about this way. It just feels in my heart that like shooting film photography does life justice. Like these special moments that I have with my friends, like shooting film photos of those memories does them justice and gives them the appreciation that they deserve, because all those simple moments in life are beautiful simply because there are moments in your life. And you know, I've learned with this Canon AF35M that film photography is a beautiful way to capture those moments. So guys, I'm gonna finish this video by just montaging together all of my film photos. Thank you guys, enjoy this montage, and I'll catch you next week.